Okay, you'll need to have a bit more of a reaction than just that. I mean, if it were me, I'd be like, oh my god, somebody call Takeru, Luigi, or those two guys and their monkey. We opened this week with us going back to the first opening bumper. Okay, seriously, this show needs to pick an opener and just stick with it. Anyway, the actual episode opened on the Hanadera household just so happening to have an extra room for Asumi. I guess it took them a night or two to clean it out, must have had a lot of junk in there. But yeah, now the physical 20-year-old had a room that she could just lay around in all day while everyone else went off to work and school. Well, I guess going from cure hobo to cure neat is a bit of an upgrade? Oh, what's that image doing there? To Asumi's credit, she did try to be productive by taking care of Latte, starting by moving her bed into her new room, which, yeah, you really shouldn't do to a puppy since it's hard for them to adjust to a new environment all of a sudden. Nor should you overfeed it, but I guess the earth didn't bless her with proper dog care knowledge as she began to figuratively and literally suffocate the poor canine. Nobody showed this woman the boy in the plastic bubble or else she's gonna get ideas. Understandably, Latte wanted to get away from the Kali menace, so she went on a walk with just Rabbling. Meanwhile, the Byogen Kingdom, Shindoinen was, as usual, fawning over the big face, but luckily Darizen had something that could help her out. Gwaiwaru was again sharing the mega parts, but surprisingly, this normally lazy guy was all for spraying their influence, thus setting up a potentially interesting power struggle between these two. Back with the Precure, Chu and Hinata ran into Asumi, who was at 50% opacity. And as I pointed out at the beginning, this didn't generate much of a reaction from anyone, and Hinata just came up with one of the weakest explanations ever, that she was just so beautiful that she was transparent. So what, did she like John Cena or something? Well, the actual explanation wasn't nearly as memeable. Since she was a spirit of the earth, Asumi's very existence seemed to be tied to her self-worth. Thus, feeling like she had no right to take care of Latte gave her the impression that she did need to stick around. Luckily, Chu was around to consult and explain what exactly she was experiencing. Though she also had to be careful about her folks finding the ghost girl and oh geez, these faces. Oh, sometimes I regret not using the Chu face counter more. Though, speaking of callbacks, her little brother brought them some Skoyaka manju, and of course, Asumi almost ate it with the plastic wrap on. Thankfully, Chu stopped her. Also, best not to tell her how that stuff is manufactured and disposed of. Though, she likely wouldn't listen anyway, as she proceeded to devour the whole plate. Wow, I honestly didn't expect that saber joke to work out this well. But yeah, she enjoyed them so much that she found a reason to exist on this planet and regained her opacity. I guess we could see this as a bit of a continuation from the last episode where she was starting to develop food preferences, with sugary cereal being the first thing she kind of enjoyed, so of course she would enjoy this overprocessed junk. Yeah, I still don't believe for a second that these things are made from vegetables like they claim. Still, this, plus a visit to the leg baths, lets you explain the concept of liking something, which isn't the easiest thing to explain, but feeling it at least makes it easier. Though she also cautioned Asumi that the things we like don't always come easy, which she then provided a visual example the next day by having her watch her practice the high jump. Chu purposely raised the bar the highest it could go, and naturally she wasn't going to clear it in just a day. However, that didn't really matter to her, as again, she at least wanted to show Asumi what it's like to have a passion for something. There are all kinds of things that we do have to kind of admit we're not the greatest at, like me at editing these videos, but because we do have a passion for them, we constantly do want to improve. I kind of wish some companies would take that more to heart. But yeah, much like last week, I really liked this little exchange between the cures. It even kind of distracted me from the fact that the healing animals just showed up out of nowhere for the sake of the plot. Latte was still kind of hesitant around Asumi, and once again took her partner down to 50%. Show her some of your YouTube videos! Those will at least get an awkward laugh! But yeah, now was also the time for the monster of the week, which Shidoine made from a water faucet. And I was going to point out that this should have included a stone elemental, which we do know exists, but going by this design, it seems like they only went with the spout and not the whole faucet. I mean, at least it doesn't have a faucet coming out of its lower extremities. Yeah, this was a thing. Believe it or not, I learned about it from a Giant Boss panel. Anyway, the original trio fought it while Asumi and Latte dealt with their issues. Said fight was pretty good this week since Ken Ueno directed it and was at least somewhat motivated. Of course, Shindoinen used the mega parts on it and also later on took a piece. Wait, when the hell did she learn she could do that? Darisen didn't mention it earlier.
The answer is don't think about it.
Anyway, realizing that it was also destroying the sporting equipment that others love so much, Asumi quickly tried to join the fight. Realizing that her own love for Latte was pushing her away, she assured her that she would try to learn how to take her partner's feelings more into account. With that, she joined in on the fight, and thankfully didn't completely overshadow her team this time, with all of them at least contributing a little, in particular, Chiu remembering that her ice elemental bottle wasn't just a beam attack, but could also work really well against a monster that used water as its main attack. Of course, Asumi took the finishing blow, which again, I honestly don't mind, as I always say they gotta sell that toy and everything. With that, they defeated it, and oh boy, I hope this school's insurance covers this. And the episode ended with Asumi assuring everyone that she looked forward to learning more about herself and the earth around her. So yeah, by the looks of it, we're gonna get a bit of a mini arc in which Asumi spends an episode with each of her teammates, and they end up sharing their personal beliefs with the newborn spirit of the earth. And while this outing with Chiu was not quite as good as Nodaka's stuff from last week, in my opinion at least, it still did resonate decently with me, and I think it's just good they're giving Asumi some limitations even if they're not entirely fight related. Though, said fight this week was actually quite decent, and I think a lot better laid out than previous ones. So, all in all, an okay episode, but with some really good character moments once again. I'll say right now, I kind of wish Asumi connected more with Chiu like she did with Nodaka. But then again, being a little emotionally distant has been kind of a part of her character from the very beginning. Now, of course, that doesn't mean she disregards her teammates, she just uses more analytic methods to get to know them, and thus doesn't use the most direct language to communicate with them, which probably works out better for the cure that still somewhat has the mind of a toddler. And when she did use more words, I did really find her explanation for liking something to be quite inspirational. So, in that sense, I do kind of understand these two not having as much chemistry. Some of the other stuff in this episode, I don't totally get. Again, if I saw a ghost girl in the middle of the street, I'd freak out a little more than these mooks. And how did Shindoinen know she needed to pick up a mega part? Stuff like that does take me out of the episode. But we also did get a good fight this week, with Ken Ueno doing a great job making every attack feel impactful, and everyone managed to contribute. Asumi herself is at least starting to look a little more vulnerable with at least an emotional based weakness, and most of all, is starting to develop into an interesting and fun character. Considering next week is Hinata's turn, I'd imagine there's a lot more fun to be had soon. I've started work on the final part of my Mahotsukai Precure manga reviews, and oh boy, you don't realize what you're getting into until after you translate a few pages. Though honestly, I am looking forward to digging into this one, but man, I think I'm going to need to take a little break from these longer reviews after the intensity of this one. Maybe I'll focus on some different things in October, but until then though, farewell for now my friends, and Ruthless aggression! Oh boy, I think John is having another midlife crisis. Ruthless aggression! Hey dude, calm down, it's not that era anymore.